Democrats and Republicans brace for a huge political fight with lawsuits being filed from all across the country. Let's bring in Mike Viquera, who's our NBC News correspondent at the White House on this Saturday. Mike.
Well, Kendis, good afternoon. It's clear that, among other things, there is a political emergency for the president. All through that negotiation, the 5 weeks of the shutdown, and then that 3-week interlude where the House and Senate Republican Democratic negotiators sat down at the same table to try to hammer out a compromise, it was clear that that was an increasingly likely option, that the president would take that step and declare a national emergency, notwithstanding that many Republicans, many conservatives voiced their opposition. Well, one very prominent conservative is now on board behind the president, and that is a very important person in Mitch McConnell, the Senate Majority Leader. He decides what goes on the Senate floor and what doesn't. And Kendis, it's important to note that while it's likely that the House of Representatives is going to pass what's called a joint resolution to disapprove of what the president did, that would require the Senate to take that up. But it's not going to be an easy fight there. The president will likely veto it. It's not likely to get the 2/3 necessary in both houses to override that veto. But we may be getting a little bit ahead of ourselves now. Let's go over some of that up to $8 billion that the president is talking about diverting from other purposes to try to build the wall, the barrier, whatever he's calling it lately. $1.375 billion is in that bill that was hammered out in that compromise. Remember, that's below the amount that the Democrats were initially going to offer him. $3.6 billion from military construction funds that are appropriated every year by the Congress, but just not for this purpose. $2.5 billion in Department of Defense drug interdiction funds normally spent on drug interdiction. And then $600 million of that $8 billion would be from the asset forfeiture program. In this case, that's when the feds, when they make an arrest, they can take whatever property or assets are there at the time of the arrest. It should be noted that's something that conservatives have been fighting against for years. Just another case where this flies in the face of conservative orthodoxy. Of course, we know what the criticism is, that the president is overreaching, that this is going around Congress and their traditional and constitutionally mandated role as the keepers of the power of the purse. So this fight is just beginning. But again, Kendis, Congress is unlikely to be able to stop this. It's going to be up to the courts and other actions around the country. And let's not forget those property owners on the border with Mexico who say that eminent domain to take their property to build that fence. They're going to be fighting that. Kendis?
It will be a fight for some time. And Mike, you should point out a tweet that you sent out some 3 weeks ago said here, have to believe a presidential emergency declaration is easily the most likely outcome. You posted that January 25th. So you have some lottery numbers for us?
Right. Look. Buy on the rumor, sell on the news. That's my stock tip for you.
There you go.
Okay?
Thanks to Mike Viquera there at the White House. Well,